Hi everyone, this is Emily Leiphart from Art from the Heart. It's been a while since I made a video and I'm thrilled to be back. I've missed being here and sharing projects with my favorite products. Today's video features a card using Simon Hurley Create stamps from Simon's second release. I'm using the Mythical Mermaids clear stamp set and the seafloor rubber cling background stamp. I love that Simon illustrated the bear and unicorn so that they could be used in non-mermaidy ways, if you didn't want to use them as sea creatures. I wanted to use this stamp set in a non-mermaidy way to show their versatility. To create the background for my card, I'll be using both green and blue inks across the seafloor rubber cling stamp. I'll stamp Clear Skies and Remember Me on the bottom half and Overzealous and Gator on the top half. I'll start by removing the foam mat from the original Misty, since these rubber cling stamps have a depth to them and they also have their own foam. Once I've inked up the stamp with the blues, I spray it with my Ranger Mister. This helps create a watercolored look for my background, and it also blurs the lines between the two blue shades. I've trimmed a piece of Simon's stark white cardstock, and I'm going to hold it in place with removable adhesive before stamping. After cleaning the stamp, I repeat the process with green inks on the top half. I want to soften the transition between the two greens, so I'm going to re-ink and re-stamp in that section so they overlap a bit. After spraying with the mister, I use my fingers to soften the edges. Here's the panel after it has dried. I did use my heat tool to speed up the drying process. I love the way the seaweed looks like it's underwater, and the transitions between the four colors is realistic. I'm going to use 4 images on my card, and I'm only using the faces so I don't have to worry about stamping the bottom halves of these images. I just need to make sure that I have room to sponge color around their heads. This cardstock is also Simon Hurley Create's stark white cardstock. It's great for watercolor because it can take a lot of water without the fibers breaking down, and I love that it's bright white and smooth on both sides. Most watercolor cardstock is cream or ivory with a texture. I'm stamping with Ranger Archival ink in jet black since I'll be watercoloring the images with Simon's inks. I do this with all 4 images. At this point, I'm not sure which way I need the fish to be facing, so I'm stamping both fish so I have options. Since I'll be sponging around the images, I need to create masks for them. Now I'm stamping each of the images on masking paper and trimming them out for later. For some reason I couldn't get the boy's hair to stamp properly, but I was able to make do. Now it's time to watercolor the images. I lay down my Brutus Monroe media mat and use the ink pads to blot color directly on the mat. Then I take a wet brush and dip it in the inks to start coloring. I realized later that I forgot to color in the bear's belly, and I'll color that later. As the boy and girl are next, I realized that I need a skin color, and my favorite to use is Tattered Rose Distress Ink. Simon has a new ink color in the latest release called Piggyback, and I'm looking forward to trying that for this purpose. For the boy's eyes, I'm using Gator, and since it's such a small area, I can just dip my brush directly onto the ink pad to draw color, instead of having to blot it on my media mat. I used circle dies and vellum paper to cut out circles to create a mock layout. This shows how I want the images to look against the background. The circles were sized to fit the images, so the girl will go in the biggest circle at the top, the boy will go in the second largest circle 3/4 of the way down, the bear will go in the third largest circle, and the fish will go in the smallest circle at the bottom of the card. I have also used masking paper and slightly smaller circles to die cut masks for ink blending. These circles are slightly smaller than the vellum circles because I want a white border around the ink blended backgrounds. I'm going to place the masks over the colored images first, then place the circle masks over top so the image masks have less chance of moving. I will repeat this process for the boy, the bear, and the fish. To create an ink blended background around my masked images, I'll be using the scrapbook.com ink blending tool with domed foam applicators. These are new to me, and I've been looking forward to trying them. I'm not the best at ink blending and always seem to get lines and blotches with the flat-edged blenders, so I'm excited to try these out for the first time in this moment. The reason why I have the background right next to the image is so I can reference the color changes. I'm going to use the background as a guide so I know what colors to use for that particular image. The girl image covers the range from Overzealous to Gator, so I'll use those 2 colors to blend her background. That way both she and her image circle will match the background on that part of the card. So far so good. The ink is blending nicely whether I blend in from the outside or the inside. And Simon's inks blend so nicely together, so I can go back and forth between the 2 colors until there's a nice transition. After I'm done, I remove both masks to reveal the coolest background. Now I take a slightly larger circle die and run it through my Platinum 6. Doesn't it look amazing? The bear is next in line, and the colors in his background will be Gator and Clear Skies. After the bear's background is complete and the masks have been removed, I noticed that his belly wasn't colored in, so I do that here and set it aside to dry while I work on the boy's background, which uses the same colors as the bear, but in slightly different proportions. I loved blending the green with the blue on both of these images. Finally, we have the fish, whose background will be a combination of clear skies and Remember Me. This image was small, but the mask of the lips kept peeling up, so I had to hold it down with my finger while ink blending. Based on my layout, there's a nice space for the long sentiment that reads, "Have a fantastic day," so I'm going to use that. I think I will also add the scripted "I love you" above it. Initially, I only planned to use these vellum circles as a guide, but I later decided that they looked really cool layered behind the image circles, adding to the underwater effect, so I incorporated them into the final design. Before stamping the sentiment, I used glue dots to attach the vellum circles to the backs of the images. As I do this, you'll notice that I'm staggering the vellum, so the bits that are peeking out aren't all in the same direction. This adds visual interest to the card and helps keep the eye moving down the panel, following the images, and adding movement to the seaweed. After stamping both parts of the sentiment, I add foam tape to the backs of the images to pop them off the panel. Then I use 2-inch score tape to attach the panel to an A2 card base. I like to use a lot of tape on the back of watercolor cardstock so it stays secure and flat on the card base. To finish the card, I'm going to add a few clear drops to further enhance the underwater theme. I use liquid adhesive and my jewel picker to adhere the clear drops, and now my card is done. Here's one last look at my card. I started with the seafloor background, misting the 4 colors I stamped to create a watercolored look. Then I stamped and watercolored each of the 4 images. I created 2 masks for each image and ink blended around them with colors to coordinate with their positions on the background. I adhered those die-cut circles to vellum circles of the same size, offsetting those to create the illusion of bubbles. After stamping the sentiment and popping the images on the background with foam tape, I embellished the cards with clear drops. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching and for supporting the Simon Hurley Create line of products. All of these products are available at Ranger and Scrapbook.com. Be sure to head to my blog for all the details, including more photos and a full supply list. See you again soon!